Welcome back to another episode of The Real Dish. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Chef Maria, the Fit Foodie. And today we are diving into I think, kind of controversial topic and one that can be a real trigger, and that is intuitive eating. You've probably heard that intuitive eating is a great way to build a healthy relationship with food, especially if you've had issues in the past or a disordered eating habit. But does it really work for especially my midlife women who want to manage their hormones and optimize their health and really importantly build muscle? Because the truth is, while intuitive eating has some benefits, it's not always the best approach, particularly at this age and stage. And in this episode, we're really going to break that down, why I want to discourage you from it. I'm just going to be honest, and what you can do instead. So let's just talk about what it is first. Intuitive eating is a philosophy that encourages eating based on hunger and fullness cues rather than external rules like macro tracking or eating, in intervals or even calorie counting. And it promotes this idea of self-trust and body attunement. So your mind is kind of dictating when you're ready to eat and when you might be full. Now, part of that is good because it takes a while for your brain to catch up with your mouth sometimes, and we can tend to overeat if we eat too quickly. So, if your brain is triggering, oh, well, I'm full now, or I'm at 80% of fullness, that is a good thing. And that kind of intuition is great. The problem, though, with intuitive eating that really I see for my ladies in midlife is that with our hormonal shifts and metabolic changes, it can lead to muscle loss, and that is really a problem. So here's what happens. As estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuate, so do your hunger and satiety signals. So this means relying solely on intuition can lead to over or in many cases under eating without realizing it. And I know you're thinking, well, you don't know me. There's no way I undereat. I bet you I'm going to go out on a limb here and say about 50 to 60% of women undereat for their metabolism. And I found this out the hard way. When I was training for my first bodybuilding competition, I just thought, well, I eat clean and, I eat enough. And I was eating about 1,000 calories too little to build muscle. Now, there is a difference between eating to build muscle and eating just to lose weight. And we have to really understand those differences because in order to build muscle, which is the longevity organ and will help to prevent injury and bone loss and all the things that we want as we get older, we have to eat to feed the muscle and to build the muscle, and need to eat more calories than you probably think, and particular types of calories. So we have to not just rely on hunger and satiety because we might not be eating enough. For example, like when estrogen drops, your appetite can increase too. So it might be harder to eat regular portions without some structure. And again, this is the opposite side of this. So intuitively, you might say, well, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat that 16-ounce steak. Well, that's not the goal either. The goal is to regulate the portions, know what you're putting in your body, and eat with structure so that you're not just eating. We want to become the type of eaters that eat to thrive, that eat to grow muscle, that eat to burn fat, that eat to, get the antioxidants and the phytonutrients we need rather than just kind of showing up at the buffet and eating whatever the fork we feel like. And that really is the difference between intentional and intuitive. And intentional, as I'm going to kind of talk about as we move along this episode, is really more of what we need to be after. Another thing that happens in midlife is our metabolisms can slow down. Now, I want to be clear here. This isn't always the case, but after 40, muscle mass naturally declines unless, and that's a big underline under unless, it's actively maintained through strength training and proper nutrition, both hand in hand. And if you're not mindful about that protein intake, muscle loss accelerates. And that leads to a slower metabolism and increased fat gain. It is a tried and true formula. More protein, more muscle mass. Less protein, more fat gain. And so intuitive eating isn't going to prioritize protein, which is critical for maintaining and building muscle. It's just going to be more about what does your body feel like doing, and this feel like kind of emotional state is what can get us into a lot of trouble. I might not feel like having that chicken breast, but I sure do feel like having that chocolate cake, and we're always going to prioritize quick energy as women. We are just designed that way. So if you've just worked out and you're hungry, unless you are being intentional about your choices, you might just naturally reach for the cookie or, just the quick carb fix instead of the protein, which is going to help build the muscle. We're just kind of hot wired that way because our bodies want us to survive. So we want quick energy. But if you can train your body to crave differently, which is what I teach people to do in my Eat to Thrive program, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes. When you create the right type of craving, you will create you will crave what your body actually needs versus just what it wants. And that's really an important thing for us to get our arms around. So that's another thing that we need to be aware of. Number 3 is muscle building really requires a strategy. And here's where I hope you get to shout a little yay. Eating enough protein and carbohydrates, yes, and carbohydrates at the right time supports muscle repair and growth. Period. We need it. We got to have it. If you don't have it, you're never going to grow a butt. It's just not going to happen. You need carbs. And without structure, it's easy, super easy to undereat protein or not fuel workouts properly. I mean, every single time, if I don't eat, I don't get a good lift. I don't get a good pump. I need food to fuel that energy. And your muscle recovery and performance will suffer if you're not getting enough. Midlife women often need higher protein targets than even younger people because, again, we are naturally losing muscle at this age because our hormones are changing. And so you might have been able to get away with it when you were in your, teens and your 20s, 30s, maybe even into your 40s. You were like, I don't really need to think about this. But then, dun dun dun, dun menopause hits and everything changes. So we've got to stay ahead of that proverbial, horse, so to speak, and make sure we're getting enough. And I'm going to talk about what enough is in just a few minutes. So stick with me. But that is part of the strategy is we need to make sure we're getting enough of all of those macronutrients, and knowing what is enough is a science. It is not shoot it into the air and hope I hit it. It is all based on your age, your activity level, whether you're male or female, what your goals are. And that will, give you a good idea of what your macronutrient split looks like or what percentage your protein, carbs, and fat should look like based on all of those different things. And a little bit of genetic predisposition too. So number 4 is nutrient deficiencies can develop. And I'm going to tell you something. Getting your micronutrients in is super critical. Magnesium, number 1 thing for midlife women. Vitamin D and omega 3s, essential for bone health, hormone balance, and inflammation control. Like, I almost ended up in the hospital because I had such low magnesium levels and I had no idea. If you're a coffee drinker, just know this, that coffee and caffeine in general will literally leach magnesium from your bones if you're not getting enough of it dietarily. So, getting a good magnesium supplement is absolutely critical, as is vitamin D and omega 3s if you're not getting those from food. And you're not getting enough sunlight exposure for the vitamin D in particular. But omega 3 is a hormone, and so is vitamin D. So you need all of those in addition to those essential minerals. And so just eating what feels right may lead again to gaps in those essential nutrients. And then finally, emotional eating and stress can cloud intuition. Can I get an amen? You've had an awful day or you are majorly under stress, which being in midlife, it seems like it's the constant battle. And, stress, fatigue, emotions all trigger cravings that don't align with what your body actually needs. And when you eat intentionally versus intuitively, you go into it knowing what you need. And, you know, the ways of the world. I mean, I saw a great quote that's like, discipline is what carries you through. If you're always doing what you feel like, then your feelings can play tricks with you. You're under stress. I just feel like a box of this chocolate chip cookie, dough right now, or those Girl Scout cookies. I mean, I know they're wonderful and I know we want to support them, but we definitely want that to be the 10% versus the 90% of our eating habits, right? So we're often, we're in this middle phase, we're juggling caregiving for younger and older. We're probably pretty advanced in our careers, or maybe we're going through a career change, or, trying to figure out like, who am I? I think I'm going through that right now to some extent as I look out the window in Costa Rica at the butterflies and the chickens running around in the front and a view of the ocean. Like, this ain't bad. If this is midlife, a midlife crisis, then I'll take the crisis any day. But, a lot of us are going through transitions, and making these stress induced eating decisions are just going to take us down a rabbit hole, while being more intentional helps these tendencies, go away and still allows for some flexibility. And that's really key here, and this is what I've spent a lot of my career talking about, is this 90-10 rule. 90% of the time you eat to thrive, and you eat macronutrient balanced meals. You eat lots of phytonutrients. You eat all the colors of the rainbow. You hydrate like your life depends on it. But still, you get to enjoy whatever the fork you want 10% of the time. And that metabolic flexibility is absolutely so powerful. We need to overeat sometimes. We need to eat more calories sometimes in order to flex our metabolism and not get so rigid. Because if we're always under eating, guess what? Our body wants to lock down and thinks it's in starvation mode. So it's going to hold on to fat. It's going to hold on to those calories, and it's not going to burn efficiently. So, I mean, if there is one good thing you're going to hear today, it's you're probably working out too much and eating not enough if you are not losing the body fat that you desire. So, here's really a what I'm going to say is a better approach. And this is intentional and strategic eating. Okay. So rather than just like shooting in the dark and relying on your emotions and what your body is telling you with intuitive eating, a structured and strategic, with some flexibility, approach works much better at this stage. And really, I'm going to say in most stages, because we need structure. We're human beings. We are inundated with choices. It's like, if we just do whatever we want, we run around like a bunch of rabid animals. And, you can't do that in your habits, or else it's going to get you into trouble. You can't just like go I don't know, willy-nilly, like crazy on a Friday night, I'm not gonna go there, but you know what I'm saying. Like, read between the lines. Like, we need to have some decency and composure in how we act, and I think we need to treat our bodies like the temple God created. So, I mean, I don't want to put garbage in my body. I don't want to just like starve my body. I want to get like good food in my body. I want to enjoy every bite. I want to like thrive. I want to be strong. I want to be goals, you know? If that's you, then this is for you. So here's what we're going to do. Number one is we're going to prioritize protein, and we're aiming for 20 to 30 grams per meal to support muscle maintenance and metabolism. And the science tells us that in order to maintain, we need about a gram of protein per pound of body weight, desired body weight. So if you weigh and you desire to be desire to be 125 pounds, I'm just throwing out a number, then 125 grams of protein. If our desire is to be, 180, then it's 180. And this is, again, all going to depend on who you are individually. That's why nobody else's goals, nobody else's meal plan is the same as your meal plan. I eat more than my husband, who's almost 6'5", okay, and younger than me. So it's just different. I'm a bodybuilder and I need muscle and I lift heavy, heavy weights and I burn like a furnace. So you got to feed the furnace. So that's just a little guideline for you. Number two is we're going to plan balanced meals, and that includes a mix of protein, fiber, which is coming from your carbs, and healthy fats to support satiety and energy. You need all three. In what proportion? Well, again, that depends on your goals and who you are. So protein is a non-negotiable because protein is comprised of essential amino acids that we absolutely need to get every single day, and our bodies don't produce all of those and they don't store all of those. So that's why we need to make sure we're getting those in daily. Now, fat, many of us have fat that we can burn. So while, essential fats are important and we need to get those every day, we don't need an abundance of those. And carbohydrates, we definitely need those carb sources, but always prioritizing clean carbs is a great way to go. Eat your sweet potatoes, eat your starchy vegetables. I'm a big fan of like clean tortillas or like, bread made with like three ingredients, I mean, we get into trouble just the more processed food is. The more processed it is, the more it contains unidentifiable ingredients that our bodies don't know how to process, and that gets stored as fat. Anytime your body is dealing with something that it doesn't recognize as food, it just kind of wants to store. So, clean means clean fuel, means eating as nature intended, means staying as, close to the source as possible. Coconut, since being in Costa Rica, we have been eating a lot of coconut and drinking a lot of coconut water, and it's just like such a pure form of fat. And it's comprised of medium chain triglycerides, which are great for quick energy. So you can get good fat that's also a superfood by just choosing wisely. Now, time nutrients around workouts, that's a really important part of this strategic eating habit. So having a protein and carb source post-workout to aid recovery is really key. And you want to do that within about 30 minutes of your workout for optimal absorption and muscle building and recovery. So have the protein shake, that has the good carb source in it. Have, a good quality, like, animal protein. Have some eggs with a banana. These are all easy things that you can, have the tuna, a pack of tuna with, an apple. Like, these are great ways to replace what you have, you know, what you've burned and at the same time built. So we want to burn and build at the same time. And that's where you're going to see a huge difference. when I did my first bodybuilding competition, and I have always condoned eating at regular intervals, but every 3 hours, like on the dot, my phone would remind me it's time to eat. And that is not intuitive because sometimes I would not want to eat, but I would just sit down and get myself comfortable and find the things that I really love to eat and do more of that. And I would suggest you make a list of the same. Write down the foods and the drinks and things that you can get nutrients in easily from that you love so that you build a plan and a strategy around those things and always have those in your refrigerator slash cupboard so that they're available at an arm's reach. None of this, we have to let go of this idea of, well, I'll just grab something, or yeah, when I get hungry, I'll just do that. Like, that is not going to get us to our goals. That is going to create inconsistency, and inconsistency in our eating is going to produce inconsistent results. So, I if we can just kind of nail those down, prioritizing protein, planning balanced meals, and timing our nutrients around workouts and also throughout the day, you will get a very long way to the finish line. Now, in addition to that, I think you can absolutely listen to your body's cues for certain things. Like if you've already gotten all of your intake, but you still are thirsty, you better drink some more water or add an electrolyte to your water because that's going to help replace those essential minerals that we need, particularly if we're working out or in the sun or going through a stressful period of time. I would also say that if you're still hungry after eating to your goals, add some more protein. You may be really crushing your workout and your body's saying, like, protein up, I need more. Add another, protein meal. And what you're going to find is protein is actually not very nutrient or not very, excuse me, calorie dense. So a 3 ounce chicken breast is only about 130 calories. So it's not like you're going to break the bank by adding more protein. Just add the protein. Your body is signaling that it needs more because your workouts are probably really intense. Or maybe you just are like, "Oh, I really feel like a salad." And I know some of you are like, "Oh, Maria, give me a break. I don't ever feel like a salad." Well, some of us do. And when you train your body and you train your taste buds, you'd be surprised. I even got my husband this thinking this way. Like he used to be Mr. Sugar Man and he still likes the sugar, but he definitely will. We were in the grocery store yesterday. He's like, "Should we get some carrots?" I'm like, "Get the carrots." He loves carrots with hummus. We love having arugula with just about every meal. He loves pickled vegetables, which we've added into a lot of our meals. So those are all things that if your body is just intuitively saying, I'm really like craving those pickled vegetables, that's going to be good for your gut. And your body is telling you something. It's telling you that, yes, that is reacting well with me. So eat more of that. And that's the kind of intuition that I think that can be really useful in addition to being more intentional and strategic. Now, if you are like, where do I even start, Maria? Where's the plan? How do I know what I'm supposed to be doing? Where do I get this macro split that you're talking about? I got you. I have a awesome meal prep program that you can get all the answers to your questions from, and it's less than $20 a month. I mean, you can't even get a nutritionist for an hour for, what this costs for a year. But you will get meal plans with my recipes based on your specific needs and your individual requirements only. If you go download a meal plan from online that's free, I'm going to tell you something. It's not going to work because they don't know you. They don't know what you need. They don't know who you are. They don't know your activity level. They don't know metabolically what you're going through. They don't know about your age. They don't know about your hormones. you are going to take a little questionnaire and you are going to get a plan for you. And that, my friends, is worth its weight in like diamonds and platinum, not just gold. So I highly suggest you do it. You can create an account for free and just see how it works out for you. And I also recommend just tracking your intake, your food, your hydration, your activity level, how you feel. This will also give you an idea of maybe what you might be sensitive to. A lot of you message me talking about your sensitivities to different foods. I think it's very important to pay attention to that because sensitivity and allergy equals inflammation, and an inflammatory response in your body is going to prevent your body's metabolism from working optimally. And essentially, that's like oh my gosh, you're in danger. Let me heal that first before I do anything else response every single time you eat something that you have an allergy to. So it's important to be aware of those. Even if you are not diagnosed with an allergy, I mean, again, that's where intuitive comes in. Like if you eat gluten and you blow up and you don't feel good, like you might not have an allergy to it, but you still don't feel good and it still makes you feel bloated. So maybe ease up on the gluten. I know for me, I have to be real careful with gluten. I have to be real careful with dairy. And that just feels better for me. So write it down and make sure you go back and see what your body is feeling like on any given day. So, to wrap this up with a nice bow, it's not that intuitive eating is altogether bad, but it's not a strategy for getting to your goals, especially in midlife or really at any stage, and optimizing your health, building muscle, and regulating hormones. A structured, intentional approach is really where it's at. And that takes into consideration your metabolic and hormonal needs for better results. Your intuition can come in as supplementation to all of that. So I would just be so curious to hear your input on this. Let's continue the conversation. And you can always connect with me on my Instagram at Chef Maria, or join my newsletter at chefmaria.com, where you'll get free tips, free recipes, and free information on how to eat well, how to thrive, and how to just take care of your best shape. And your best shape is your soul shape, your heart shape, your attitude, your physical shape, and your emotional shape. And that all comes into fruition when you eat to thrive. I'm telling you, your success is on the end of your fork, friends. And we can't sleep on this. We got to make it happen. This is your year. 2025 is the year to thrive. And I'm here to help you. So if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me. Check out the meal prep program. And if you found this episode helpful, would you share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review? That really is my virtual tip jar and just encourages me so much to keep this podcast absolutely free. So until next time, let's eat with intention, let's move with intention, and let's live with intention. That is what I call thriving. See you soon.